So my name is Young Gerald, and my passion is obviously designing, creating and making beautiful clothes through a purposeful supply chain which is tailored and unique to companies and also individuals that actually help save waste. So I'm going to talk about some of my journey through this talk today, and so it gives you a little insight in my background, which is mainly from fashion, and then how I ended up moving into hospitality design, and then some time for questions and answers afterwards if they're short, apparently, according to Sebastian. We have to start the fashion show after that, so which is quite appropriate. So I'm the founder of Bespoke Textiles and also Katie Young Design. And we create and tailor sort of unique supply chain from factory right through to market with our businesses. I love unique clothing, and I have been customizing, creating, designing and developing clothing to brands for the last 25 years. This has been in the luxury fashion sector and also now more recently in the last 7 years hospitality. So how I see this process is co-creating purposeful journeys in fashion that help meet your needs, so tailoring the process. And this, in some ways, is disrupting sort of the fashion industry or the way we buy clothes, because I'm very about making something beautiful and make it last. A lifetime in many cases, and then it will shift buying habits of buying cheap and not enjoying it, which for me, when I discovered this fact about the fact that we now waste in the textile industry over 70 kilos per person per year into landfill through fast fashion, buy today, throw away tomorrow. And unfortunately, that's the sort of the impact of the environment if we carry on doing this. So my thing is, love your clothes, create what you love, buy what you love only, and make it last, and customize and reinvent it when you're ready to. And I have a whole thing around upcycling as well that I do privately. So let me tell you a bit about my journey. Where am I? Here we are. Sorry, I'm looking at these slides, which are two. So I never thought I'd be an apron designer. Well, that's a bit of a joke, really, because actually it's just funny how my unique take on clothing has moved into uniforms, and some of those obviously involve aprons. So we have a large success of actually designing aprons and everything, and it made me laugh because when you have come from a fashion background, you sort of think it's far too cool, uncool to be designing aprons, but actually I absolutely love what I do, and because I can add my unique twist to something, it makes them my customers feel more in touch with their brand, and they're proud to display it more. So this journey has been over 25 years, as I said. So I'm actually launching a book commemorating 25 years of textiles and all my processes that I do to deliver the perfect sort of supply chain for a client. So teaching the tips and the tools, and that's also going on my newsletter. So if anyone wants to get those insights over the next year, I'm going to be releasing them on my blog and on my newsletter, so you can sign up for those things. But it all started, my passion, that's me with the short hair there. It all started when I was 11 years old, when both my parents divorced and were getting remarried to different partners. And they're both their weddings, one was in May, one was in September. I needed to find an outfit to wear. And the budget was, something around £50, I think, at that time, which was a lot of money in the 80s. But I couldn't find anything to wear, and it was really left me really downhearted. But having grown up in a Somerset town, I discovered second-hand shops and charity shops, which became my lifesaver in the end, because there I found the most beautiful vintage clothes that were almost untouched, but had this amazing sort of workmanship, heritage to them, beautiful labels, you know, wool jackets being made and sold proudly in Knightsbridge. You know, we were on the labels and there was royal warrants and things. And it fascinated me that there was this whole world of clothes that had been with certain, these were old ladies particularly, that had retired to the town, lovely seaside Victorian town, and their wardrobes had been donated to charity shops, and that's where I started to discover the gold. And after the frustration of never not being able to buy anything nice for my parents' wedding, I chose to start customizing unique charity shop clothes at that age. Then I went on to have my career in fashion, graduated from Manchester Metropolitan University with a degree in fashion textiles, and at that time was lucky enough to get a job straight away with a brand called English Eccentrics based in London. So I was delighted to be in the city I'd always imagined living. And so 25 years ago, I started working for English Eccentrics, and that was where my journey began. This was a very proud moment. Obviously, you can recognise the figure in the picture there, because Princess Anne, or Princess Royal as she's known now, she came to visit English Eccentrics because we were a very successful, growing British heritage brand, specialising in textiles. My job, and this was for her, she was part of the British Textile Association, so what she did with tours around successful companies that were helping British industry promote textiles, but also British manufacturing. And she's currently, just last week, announced a huge tour around British manufacturers all around the country. So I had the opportunity to talk to her and show her quite a few of the workings behind producing a luxury garment, doing a spec sheet there and a pattern placement, how I was doing my lay plans and costings, and then right through to checking the velvet, which English Eccentrics caused a huge trend after bringing silk scarves back to the market, which stimulated the whole Versace look and Hermes scarf. You know, that at that time, English Eccentrics triggered that whole fashion trend. So they were just churning out masses of beautiful designs on silk scarves, which they turned into shirts, waistcoats, and scarves. That moved on to tunics, so the fourth style item that they ever started doing around the time that I joined them, doing Devoe velvet, which was made from silk velvet, a method that was used in the 1920s, and they reinvented that and put their textiles to it. We printed it all in the UK and made it all in the UK, but the laborious thing that I had to manage was to check every single roll, unhook each panel, and check for any flaws in the velvet and cut those sections out because they couldn't be used in a tunic. And so I was explaining all this to Princess Anne. So eventually, after 5 years with English Eccentrics, they became known on the catwalk rounds as well. So we exhibited London Fashion Week every season with a brand new collection. By this point, we were doing 86 garments and about 100 different scarves in each collection. So we were a huge, huge brand. At that point, we'd gone from, when I started, 200,000 turnover right through to hitting the 2 million turnover. And for a British fashion brand, self-funded in Britain at that time, it was quite unusual. So well respected in the industry, but they did their own thing. And that's what I think is what's lovely about them, is their timeless classics. So this original sample here that was on the catwalk, there was only ever one made, and because I worked for the company, I took a liking to that sample and I bought it with my clothing allowance, and here it is today. It's still in perfect condition, and so we're about to work with English Eccentrics again now and relaunch the brand 20 years later. So with a 30-year archive of prints to slowly redistribute and bring the beauty of English Eccentrics to a brand new generation. So, and also we're going to change the fit and everything, because that dress never really fitted me. I didn't really look like that, so I'm shorter-waisted and all of that. So anyway, you can see how timeless it is and that their stuff carries on forever, and that's really my ethos about fashion and style. You can make it last forever. So I'm showing you this picture because at that point I chose to leave English Eccentrics and embark on living in Hong Kong. where I could sort of broaden my knowledge base and manufacturing base and design career. And instead of working on the sample development and production side of inks at Centrix and the British fashion industry, I could actually move into manufacturing and understand what it's like in a factory to, you know, the sourcing, the whole production line process, and actually working on a bigger scale and a small scale. And that's where I developed a lot of factory partners that I still work with today. So moving on, when I came back from Hong Kong and China with an amazing amount of knowledge and connections, I then put that to work with sourcing unique supply and matching luxury brands that wanted to take that next step into manufacture, but they didn't know who to trust and who to work with. And they typically were using outworkers in the East End or small factories, but they needed to scale it up to the next level. And that's when I started using some of my connections and processes that I'd learnt whilst working for bigger companies and manufacturing supplies out there, brought it back to British design, which was where my heart really sat. And I was also doing on the side customizing of vintage and remaking unusual things from vintage fabrics. And I had a market stall at Spitalfields and Portobello every week. My career carried on revolving, working in the Far East sometimes. And this is a time when I was working out in Vietnam, which was great adventure as well. Again, working with some amazing sources and great people, which is what you remember about these journeys. But the thing is, the ability to what you could do was just blown open for me. You know, you suddenly could do really intricate details that you couldn't quite get here in Britain. So I could combine both the manufacturing bases. So I'm going to just whiz through the last few steps to present day, because I know the catwalk show's going to start in 5 minutes. I know you'll be dying to watch that. And we can answer any questions again. I'll stand at Bespoke Textiles, or I'll be back at 3 o'clock. And so then I moved on to, as I said, working as a consultant and doing various projects for other people. So this was a very advanced eco project at the time. So I made a raincoat, which was to be stylish, the brief was to be really stylish, like a Burberry sort of Mac, but completely made of a polyester that was made from recycled water bottles. So at that time, it was a really green fibre. You couldn't find it in many places. So I was lucky enough to start working with this Taiwanese manufacturer who patented this sort of formula to create the fibres that were recycled. And then we put that into a weaving mill, made the fabrics. And at that time, we could only do black, unfortunately. So we had to stick with the one colourway, black with grey print. But we did do 2 designs, which you see there. And it was a really successful collaboration. This is really just showing you how you can take inspiration from everything and customize it a little bit and add your little edge. Because I really believe that everybody is at heart as a fashion designer. They've all got their unique tastes and want to add their unique elements to something to make you feel individual. And so I then built a collection at that time. I launched a range in 2004 called Forever Young. And it was about creating timeless vintage pieces and recreating them that fitted today, the modern body shape in modern fabrics. And this was my best-selling dress, the rose dress, and we sold hundreds and hundreds just in this colourway alone. So it was interesting, and I refused to do black because I said far too many people choose black as a default. I'm going to put colours, like dual colours in the collection. And it was amazing how the most brightest colours sold the most. And then customising ideas from vintage was really then lifting those ideas and then putting them into a design that we could use as an embroidery. And I put it here on 3 different types of product, and mesh embroidered that was sourced in Asia. And then we did the embroidery and put it into the garments and also into a bag. And, just showing you actually how you can develop something from something individual that you found as a one-off and then develop it into something more special. So And that all came to a sort of an unexpected end when I had 2 children, and it was just too much to build a brand at that point. So I paused things while I was there, sold off the collection at the clothes show that was remaining stock, and I started back consulting and set up a company called Young Design. And this is just a picture of me and my sister, actually. I had a vintage dress and she wanted one too, so I remade hers in pink. And it just to show you, you know, the versatility of lifting ideas and, you know, having fun with fashion and originality. And this goes right through to present day when we started working with the Soho House Group, who asked us to make a unique napkin, actually, at the time. They wanted a 3.3 centimetre check. They wanted to do a really unusual edging, and could we source it? Well, you know, I can make garments, so a straight square was super easy. It was just using one of my mills. And then this evolved into working with the chicken shop, Pizza East, and then doing blankets for the Ivy and various other products. And part of the thing is always fitting and trying how it feels on the actual person. So right through to hospitality, where we've ended, you know, the journey at this point. Well, not ended, but certainly transitioned through into hospitality. And so we try to make it a little bit different and have a bit of fun with style in uniform, because ultimately uniform is just what you decide it to be that you're wearing that day. So I'm just going to flick through to the last slide. I think this one wasn't going to work. It's a little video of us making the shirts in the factory. Oh, it's not working. But do come and say hello. Has anyone got a really quick question? There you go. Go and sparkle. Has anyone got a really quick question that they're burning to ask before we end?
Questions, anyone? No?
Do come and find it on the stand anyway, and I'll be back at 3.